Hello, Badger students. Thank you for your participation with this video. Your teacher should have distributed to you a code of conduct and an interactive worksheet. So at this time, if your teacher's not done that, please pause this video. Otherwise, we're ready to get started. I'd like to introduce the administration staff, the administration staff, the names. So Ms. Rodriguez is your principal. There are 5 assistant principals. And although we're assigned by class level, we are always welcome at any time to help students with any of their concerns. So the student code of conduct. Every student right now should have received the version in English. And with that, we will need for you to return the form that's signed by both you and your parent, and then you'll turn that into your second period teacher. If you need a language for your parent other than English, please go to the district's website, tusd1.org, and select the version that you need. So what is the Student Code of Conduct? At this time, please open the booklet to page 1. And on there, we're going to be discussing a few things. So the Code of Conduct, it's a guide that outlines behavior expectations, rights and responsibilities of both the staff and the students. So when do the guides apply? So on page 1, it also outlines this. The first is portal to portal. So let me explain that to you. Portal to portal means that it's in play when you leave your home in the morning until you get to school in the morning, and then also when you leave school in the afternoon until you get home in the afternoon. And we'll talk a little bit about why that's so important in a couple of slides. It's also in play at any athletic function, such as a football game, or any other school-related event, such as a concert, like with steel drums, or perhaps a field trip. So on page 20, if you'll now turn to that, I'd love to tell you about your rights as a student in TUSD. So the number one that is so important to administration is that you have the right to learn in a safe, positive climate. So if you go back to when we talked about portal to portal, why is it so important for you to be protected from when you leave your home until you get to school, or when you leave school and you go to home? Well, you have the right to be safe. And so if something is happening, for example, on the bus on your way to school, if you're uncomfortable being on that bus, then maybe you won't come to school. So that is why you are protected during that time frame. You also have the right to be treated with respect. Whether it's from other students on our campus or from staff members. Also, as a student, you have the right to due process. And what this means is if administration or an adult gets information and, for example, states, hey, this student has this on them, or I heard this about this student, due process means that we're going to do an investigation. We don't just take the student's word for it or a statement. We do a thorough investigation and we flesh everything out. And this could take up a little bit of time. It could take up to 1 to 2 days, but the student has that right to due process, and we have the responsibility then to flesh everything out and make sure that we have the accurate picture of whatever event may have happened. One important right I definitely want to talk about is this last one. Every student has the right to access to the curriculum regardless of the absence or the reason of the absence. So even if you have an unexcused absence, you can go in during conference period or use Badger Power Hour to get access to the curriculum as to what you missed while you were gone. However, please keep in mind that it is the teacher's policy that you need to know about on whether or not students earn credits and points for unexcused absences. Now, with great rights comes great responsibilities, though, right? Just like Superman, correct? So on page 20 is also about your responsibilities as a student. You need to make sure that you're attending school daily, that you arrive on time. If you are tardy, you do need to check into the attendance office first for a pass. You need to be prepared to participate in classes, so make sure that you have all the materials that you need. Make sure you're completing your assignments, and if you have questions, participate in class by asking questions. Conduct yourself in an appropriate and respectful manner. So if you remember, if we go back to what are some of your rights, it's to be treated with respect, but then that means that you yourself also need to be respectful. Expensive electronics are brought to campus on at your own risk. So know that you have the responsibility that if you bring it on campus, we are not responsible for that item. However, if you do experience a loss, please go to security and T150 to make the report. Now, parents have responsibilities also. So what we need from your parents or guardians is to be able to communicate and collaborate with teachers for your success. If at any time, if you feel like that you're not quite receiving the support that you need, please reach out to your parent, to reach out to teachers or your counselor. We can set up an appointment to sit down and build an academic plan for you. We also need help from your parent or guardian to promptly excuse any absences within 48 hours. That is a state statute, so we need to make sure that those get excused, because again, if you go back, if your absence is unexcused, although you have the right to the material and the curriculum, you may not actually earn points for making up the work. Letters will be mailed home on the student's 3rd, 6th, and 9th unexcused absences, and on the 10th unexcused absence, the student may not earn credit for the class and may get an NC for the grade. That is cumulative for the period for the semester, so even if you have a schedule change, that is still cumulative. It's not, there's no change in the number even if you change classes for that period. I'd like to highlight some of the issues that we typically see on our campus. The first one is the dress code. Please note that the dress code is for both genders, and it applies, and we will stop students regardless of the gender when we see violations. So make sure that you follow the TUSD dress code policy, and also know, though, that some teachers may add additional restrictions within their classroom. So for example, some teachers may not allow baseball caps in a classroom. Make sure that you know your teacher's policy. I'd like to also give an analogy. Many times when we stop students that have a dress code violation, the first step that a student sometimes takes is to deflect and point out others that may have dress code violations. Well, we recognize that there could be other dress code violations out there. The best analogy that I can give you is like a speeding ticket. If you were pulled over for a speeding ticket and TPD pulls you over, you can't deflect out of a ticket because other people may be speeding and you can point them out. Same thing with the dress code. We need to make sure that you are understanding that you take acknowledgement for your own decision of how you dressed for school that day, and deflection to others is not going to be an excuse to not have to follow district policy. So students in violation of the dress code will be asked to do one of the following. If there's inappropriate printing on the t-shirt, for example, it may be fixed by turning the t-shirt inside out. So that might be one option. If that's not an option, we do have some changes of clothing available in the nurse's office, so we would take you over there for that change. Or another possibility is to change into clothing that's brought to school from home. Please know that students refusing to comply will have a parent or guardian contacted for further action. Another one that seems to be a hot topic in the classrooms is the district cell phone policy. So please know it's just best to keep your cell phones out of view. Some teachers may ask you to put your cell phones in your backpack, and then they line up the cell phones along a wall in the classroom. That is acceptable, and so please make sure that you know your teacher's policy. Know that you're not to be using any cell phones during instruction time unless you have authorization from your teacher. They may use a green and red zone policy, and so look for that poster in your classroom. Neither the district nor the staff is responsible for loss, damage, or theft of an electronic device. So again, as I mentioned earlier, you're bringing these items to school at your own risk. However, if you do experience a loss, again, please go to security in T150. Students violating the policy may have their cell phone confiscated and be subject to disciplinary action. Some of that could include having your parents come on campus, especially for repetitive offenses. The next page I'd like for you to turn to is page 7. On page 7, it's a listing of what we call action levels. So when there's a violation within the Code of Conduct, administrators then, maybe we receive a referral from a teacher, or maybe the student is brought to us from security. So once we do an investigation or we flesh out what the occurrence was, what the violation is, please know that these levels are determined by the district. They're already preset. And so each violation within the Code of Conduct has this action level with a list of consequences. Some are required and they are written in bold, and some are not required and they are written in regular font, but they can still be used. So if you turn to page 9, the violations within the Code of Conduct start on this page. So at this time, I'm going to ask if you could please pause this video and take a look at the example from your worksheet and work that out. Thank you for your participation with the worksheet. I'd like to also mention one that was not covered on your worksheet, and that is a school threat. Please know that we here at Tucson High take the safety of all of our students and staff very seriously. So if something comes across our way, please know there have been tragedies that have occurred across the nation. We need to be very sensitive to that, and that means any credible threat that comes our way, we investigate this. This includes any verbal statements or posts on social media. So on page 14 of the Code of Conduct, it outlines that this is an action level of 5 with the grounds for expulsion. So that is very important for you to understand. A student could be dismissed from TUSD and not be able to enroll in any TUSD based on this if there are grounds to say, yes, the student did do that. Please also note that any school threat is also will involve TPD, and they will assist in the investigation. And so if there's something that credible comes through and we do find that a student or somebody's done that, it's very, very, very likely that charges will be pressed and TPD will be involved in that. I'd like for you to know who your counselor is. So we are doing something a little bit different with the counselor assignments. So from the first letter of your last name, you can find your counselor from this list. So please take a moment, make sure that you can find your counselor and who it is. So if you ever need to make an appointment for the counselor, you will have their name. We are working to get that into Synergy and on your student view, if we can get that assigned in there that way. And then that way, if you forget, we'll have it in student view for you. In addition to the Alpha counselors, we do have Ms. Hall, who is our magnet counselor, and then we have 2 college and career counselors. So if you'll take a look at that piece, they'll have some exciting events for you throughout the school year and during Badger Power Hour. So let's talk a little bit about what successful Badgers do as students here at Tucson High. So in general, successful Badgers, they're going to make sure that they're attending school every day. Don't forget, if you have 10 or more unexcused absence in any period, that you could earn no credit in that class. Successful Badgers take notes, they write down assignments, perhaps they have a planner that helps them organize what they need to do and when their deadlines are. Successful Badgers also ask for help in class. They raise their hand or they're willing to help other students to make sure that everything is clarified. Successful Badgers understand that they probably have homework or something that they need to work on every night. And if they don't have homework, perhaps there's a novel that they can read for their own enjoyment. Successful Badgers pass all classes, and not just at the bare minimum. They reach high, they reach higher, and they reach the highest that they can go, and they're looking at their GPA and they're following that. Successful Badgers also regularly attend conference period and any tutoring opportunities that are before school or after school. And for this year now, we're very excited to have the Badger Power Hour, so Successful Badgers will ask teachers for a pass for Badger Power Hour. So remember our motto here at Tucson High: be a good person, be a good student, be a good Badger. We'll have more information coming soon regarding PBIS and our Badger Power Hour. Thank you, and have pride in your school and education.